these are old, turn of the century, fairly cheap firearms that you can find readily on the market. Some of these older ones, like this one, I suspect it's a second model Premier, manufactured around 1905, but I can't find much information on it, seeing as it's not serialized, and there's no real markings on the barrel or anywhere on the frame, except on the side where it says 22 rimfire. Okay, a lot of help there. But I did a lot of research, and that's about the best I can come up with. But anyway, these are pretty fun little guns, and you can find them for a pretty fair price anywhere you go look around. You can find them in your local shops. You're not going to really find them at box stores, but of course if you go onto your online auction sites, you might have some pretty good luck. And this one right here, I got it for a pretty good deal, and I'm very happy with it. I've shot it before, it's a lot of fun, and I can't wait to show it to you guys. Now, like I said, with the H&R, it's an open top. Now, it's not like an old Colt open top, but it opens up like that, and it's got an auto ejector, as you can see right there. 7 shots in the cylinder, and then after you load it back up, and you'll see that, close her back up just like that, and she's ready to go. Now, one thing that's noteworthy, the sights are pretty darn small. You're gonna see right there just that small notch cutout. Not very impressive, but being up close for a small pistol, they actually work out pretty good. And then of course you got that raised front sight that's fixed. Now, I have a particular fondness for these old guns because, well, one, they're old, and I'm actually holding a tangible piece of history in my hands. Now, that's not to say that this is part of any kind of notable historical moment, but back in the day when they were still manufacturing new and upcoming firearms and new technology, and they were still exploring in the early 20th century, this is one of the products. I think based on what I could find, this is like around 1905 this was built, so it does handle smokeless powder, but not that far off of it. Commercially made smokeless powder firearms, you know, they were still in their infancy back then. I believe it was like the early 1890s when they started producing them, so this is probably 10-15 years in when you could easily get them. Otherwise, pretty much like the military and all the other markets, a lot of them you're still getting a mishmash of smokeless, experimental smokeless, well, they're still trying to figure it out, and obviously black powder stuff. So from the early turn of the 20th century, it's really neat to be holding this thing in my hand, let alone shooting it. It's an excellent working order, and I couldn't be happier. Now, given the age of this thing, we're going to use a little bit of caution here, and we're going to be doing some subsonic loads. So we're going to see, these are essentially 22 longs, but they're 22 long rifle, but they are lower velocity, 710, and they're equivalent to these 22 shorts that are also 710 velocity. So I think these will work pretty darn well with this revolver. Now, one of the things I noticed about this is the cylinder is pretty darn small, so that leads me to believe this was designed for shooting 22 shorts. However, I have been able to chamber 22 longs in there, or 22 long rifle. And I want to show you the difference here. I'm going to open her up, and I'm going to take 2 different shells out. So the first one is going to be a 22 short, which is obviously shorter than the 22 long rifle. And I'm going to put it in there, and I'm going to take this 22 long rifle, or 22 long, I guess, essentially, and put that in there. And I'm going to show you what the front of the cylinder looks like, so you can kind of get an idea. There's quite a bit of difference in the length of the case there as it relates to the cylinder. Check this out. Now, hopefully you can see it. This chamber right here is the 22 short, and this one is the 22 long rifle, or whatever, 22 long, whatever you would prefer. And you can see that the projectile itself is much closer to the head of the cylinder, or to the head of the chamber rather, as opposed to the 22 short. And I want to do a comparison between the two, how they actually shoot out of this gun. So at about 5 paces, 5 yards, give or take, I'm going to load this thing up with 22 shorts. And I'm going to start off, I'm going to do single action, because I believe that is going to be the most accurate way to shoot this thing, obviously without dealing with that heavy trigger, and there is a heavy trigger on there. Just to kind of get a look at that, and then I'll follow it up with the low velocity 22 long rifle. I'm probably as curious as you are to see what kind of a difference we're going to be looking at, if there is any difference. I'm wondering if that case length length to cylinder length is going to have any kind of major impact. So anyway, let's give it a rip. That's looking pretty good. Let's check it out.